everybody. I'm going to have to put my readers on. For those of you that saw me in 2022, I was not wearing them. Now I wear them. So I know you all share that. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this important session. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Renee Moss. I am a mother of 2 children with NF1 and wife to a husband with NF1. We've been doing this for a long time. Our first NF Summit was 2013. So our son was diagnosed in 2011, and we found CTF shortly after that, and it's been our family ever since. So for those of you that are first-timers, you're in a great place. I am really excited to introduce you to this educational session that's been sponsored by Alexion and provide a little bit of background information about how it got started. For those of you that attended the summit in 2022 that was in Chicago, you might have voted on an activity that Alexion booth. I remember there were big glass bowls, I think, where you were dropping ideas for educational topics that you might want to learn more about. Mental health and wellness was one of those 5 topics included in the vote, and it was a clear winner. So today's topic, Caregivers Need Care, I know I do, program was created in response to your vote. So the Alexion team has shared with me that they're especially proud to debut this program, this new program here at the NF Summit, which is where the idea was first born. So a little bit more about me. I am, when I say I'm a mom of 2 with NF1, my son is 18, about to leave for college, and I have a 9th grade, very expensive daughter. So even without NF, I need care as a mother of teenagers. And I can remember needing care when they were toddlers, and this is just normal life. And then you add to that the complexity of a rare disease, and we need care too, don't we? Anybody that's a caregiver in the room. So I think this is a really, really important topic. I'm really excited to hear, and I hope you all are excited about it too. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce your program host, Mike Sager. He is a member of the Alexion Patient Education Manager, or the PEM team, and he will take it here to introduce our expert speaker for today's session. So give me a hand to Mike.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're so glad that you took time to be here today. My name is Mike, and I'm a patient education manager with Alexion Pharmaceuticals. As a patient education manager, or a PEM for short, my job is to meet with you to help answer questions about neurofibromatosis type 1 plexiform neurofibromas, or NF1-PN. I can meet with you virtually or in person, help you join educational webinars, and also connect you with the greater NF community. Other PEMs will also be available to help. And just so you know, there are 4 of us across the country, and we all have fairly large geographies at this point. Later in the presentation, you'll hear in more detail what your PEM can do for you. And let's see if we can get the slide up there. There we go. I'll be kicking off our presentation today about balancing care and wellness for yourself, your family, and your loved one with NF1-PN. We know that a diagnosis of NF1-PN can affect the entire family. You may feel overwhelmed with emotion and stress. The goal of this presentation is to take a step back, examine its impact, and explore some resources and advice to help manage these effects. So before we get started, I would like to go through a few important announcements. For the privacy of fellow attendees, please do not capture recordings, photos, and/or screenshots of this presentation. And also, we all have these annoying things that we carry around, right? So please silence any devices that you might have. So today, we also have with us Kasey Rangan, a nurse practitioner with over 20 years of rare disease experience from Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. And you will hear from her in just a little bit. Let's see if that slide will change. Okay. There we go. There's Kasey. Okay. What? Pointed this way. Okay, so. What? Oh, the bigger one on the top. Hey, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Hit the right button, they told me, right? Okay. So before we get started, no question is too big or too small. However, please do not ask questions related to personal or specific medical concerns. You should consult your doctor or your loved one's doctor with any medical questions. As we move through this presentation, please write down any questions that you may have. And we will have time at the end to help you think about those questions. Now, we're not going to answer any questions in this session today, but when we get to the slide with questions, I would just like to encourage you, if you did come up with questions, to come out afterward and meet us back at our exhibit table back there, and we would be happy to try to answer any questions for you. All right, at this point, I would like to have Kasey take us through the presentation. Now, I might stop us now and then and or add in some comments, but I'm just as happy as you are today to learn from Kasey. So, Kasey, I'm going to turn it over to you. Now, this is very important.
Which button?
It's
the big green
button.
one.
Hit the big green button.
I will tell you a fun fact. I did a conference a few years ago with this, and for some reason, the bright green triangle on top was not blatant enough to me. They were like, no, that one, duh. So hi, everyone. My name is Kasey Rangan. I'm a nurse practitioner at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. I'm really excited for this opportunity to partner with Alexion and share with you some of my wisdom and experience. And I have kind of 3 different ways that I feel like I will be bringing experience to share with you. Number 1, I've been working with pediatric oncology patients and neurofibromatosis patients for 27 years at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles in a variety of settings. Bedside, nurse practitioner for survivors of pediatric cancer, including young adults, and more recently working with NF patients and brain tumor patients. 2, growing up, I had, my grandparents had 4 children. 3 of them, my father's siblings, all had cystic fibrosis. So growing up, I know what it's like to be in a family where you're dealing with chronic disease, rare disease, and the toll that that takes upon a family as somebody who is living through it in the moment. And then thirdly, just having an opportunity to share my own personal experiences as a mom. As Rainey was saying, just being a mom, a caregiver in and of itself is stressful. I have 2 boys. One is a junior in high school, one is at UW, go Dogs. And, you know, they both have ADHD. And so I have some experience in advocating for school services and that type of thing. So I'm hoping to share my general wealth of knowledge with you guys. And I can't get too specific. We just don't have time for that. But I'm going to do my very best to give you kind of general overview. And again, I am being paid by Alexion to be here, but I was chosen because I do have a lot of expertise, and I hope you will benefit from my wisdom. So I'm sure we've all heard the terminology, none of us can pour from an empty cup, so that metaphor really is, if you don't have anything in the glass to pour, you can't share with everyone else, right? And so it is really something that I would want you all to take a moment. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you all for being here in the first place, right? This is a huge step, acknowledging that this is an important and valuable thing for caregivers to learn about. And number 2, I definitely want to tell you that what you're doing is enough. You're trying your best, and that is enough. And I really applaud you for being here, to wanting to learn to do more, to be the very best you can for your family. No matter what way you are caregiving, whether you are a parent caregiving for a child and you're new to this journey, if you are an adult child and you're your own parent has this journey and you're having to care for them, no matter what your journey is, I applaud you for being here, because caregiving is a spectrum, right? It doesn't just start and stop, and it can mean many different things, and families are all different. So we really want to make sure that you as a caregiver, no matter how many caregivers you have in the family, you are really doing your best to make sure you're taking time for yourself so that you can give to others. So we know that caring for NF is challenging in and of itself. It is a rare disease, but what makes it unique is that it's a rare disease that doesn't really have limitations as far as being applied to a certain ethnicity or geographical area. And so you may be in a community where your family is the only one being affected by this rare disease, even though it is the most common rare disease. So sometimes that can feel quite isolating. And so when we took a poll of parents and caregivers for patients that have NF, there are lots of concerns, 4 out of 5, in fact, that come up having mental health concerns about the overall being overwhelmed caregiving responsibilities. And that can affect every aspect of your life, essentially. It can be mental health, it can be physical health, it affects those around you, and it really is kind of like a domino effect. You know, one thing goes down and it starts to affect everything else, and so you kind of have to start with the first domino, and you are the first domino, right? You want to make sure that you're standing upright. You have to do everything you can, because if you fall over, all these other dominoes are going to go over too. So when you're caring for a loved one with NF, there's lots of different ways it may affect your family. And like I said, families look in many different ways. You know, sometimes there's single parents, sometimes there's multi-generational parents, multi-generational families. You can have big families, little families. You may have multiple family members that have NF in and of itself, which adds a layer of complexity to caring for the situation. And looking at how it really affects these families, you know, it affects your occupational thought process, essentially. So it's not just taking time off from work. Obviously, that's an issue. But it may be as far as, you know, choosing the job that's going to offer your family the better health insurance, even though it might not be your dream job or the job that pays better, but you may choose a particular job because it's going to offer better benefits and health care to your family, which is going to be a concern because you know you have this family member that's going to need a lot of health care, doctor's visits, medicines, and that kind of leads into financial toxicity, right? So that's something that we in healthcare are starting to think a lot about, financial toxicity. Not only might you be missing work and having issues with that, and there are things in place to help protect you. So FMLA, which I just listened to the advocacy group, the advocacy panel, and they talked about FMLA. So if you work in a big enough organization, there are protections with paperwork that you get filled out, and you can fill it out and it will cover, like, you have to miss 1 day a month to take your family member to doctor's visits or for their MRI or any number of things, or if they're on a study and you have multiple visits. This kind of adds for protections, but you know, you have to work at a company that's big enough for that, and small companies may not offer that as well. On top of financially, your copays, right? So every time you get an MRI, a couple $100 it could be. If you're getting multiple MRIs a year, multiple family members getting MRIs, that adds up very quickly. Copays for medicines. You know, if you don't get paid time off for work, if you're sick, that type of thing, all of that can kind of compound. And then socially, you, because the illness of, or the caregiving of a patient with NF1 it may not give you the time for the social activities. You may be just so burnt out by the time you get to the weekend from running around, you may not have the energy to go out, or maybe your loved one has special mobility needs or behavioral needs, and going to social events just doesn't, it doesn't work out so easily. So we know that when looking at a particular study of 95 NF1 caregivers, at least 20% said their daily activities were impaired, and it can be beyond even what we just talked about right now. And so not just the individual or the individual caregiver is affected, it is an entire family. So you have to think about how, and this kind of falls onto the burden of care, falls onto these caregivers of how do you address the whole family? How do you care for the whole family? Because it's not just the individual with NF1 or individuals with NF1. It might be other siblings in the family that are not affected and may not fully understand why their sibling has all this attention, or goes to the hospital quite a bit. Same thing, their parent may be taken away because one parent has to take the individual affected with NF1 to all these doctor's visits and they're not around. Maybe they miss baseball games or football games or whatever. Same if you are in some sort of relationship, making sure you take time with each other to keep your relationship strong. We know that when people are going through really challenging complex health issues, sometimes their relationships take a toll, and so you really have to take time to look into that. And when all these things kind of come into play, it creates a lot of anxiety and depression. And when that goes left untreated, that is also a domino effect, right? So if one thing goes down, the rest of the dominoes go. And so when looking at this particular study, caregivers report at least a 35% of having anxiety and therefore leading to depression. They kind of go hand in hand. You don't always have depression with anxiety, but if you have anxiety and it goes untreated, it can lead down the path of depression. And so this is something that I talk about with my families quite early and quite often. Not only the patient themselves, and I deal with mainly a pediatric population, however, knowing NF has that can affect multiple family members, oftentimes our visits are very family-centered, right? So I'm making sure that, what's going on with the parents, are they doing okay? What's going on with the child? Are they doing okay? And really kind of normalizing all these things and all the stressors and pressure that gets put onto them. And one of the things that I really like to normalize is all sorts of treatment. And how do you take care of yourself when these things start to come up? Is it looking for therapy for yourself? Is it looking for therapy for your family? Is there medications that could be helpful? And if you ever get into a situation where you are just so overwhelmed and you have thoughts of harming yourself, or you are the individual yourself with NF and maybe you feel like you're the burden and you have thoughts of harming yourself, there is a text 741-741 that is a crisis line to help you get immediate help. However, we would really like it in the healthcare world that we don't get to that point per se, and that these feelings are being addressed earlier than getting to that crisis. And so talking about all the different ways you can kind of pull in for your family, things that might work and help for you. And so that last slide, see if it goes backwards. No, maybe not. There was some mention of spirituality and emotionality. Yeah, it did go back. It just took a little bit. And for tying in my own personal family history, watching my grandparents go through taking care of 3 children that had cystic fibrosis, 2 of whom lived into early adulthood. They were very connected to their church. And they found a lot of support in that. And I think one of the things that I want you all to think about while you're here today is, what are the ways that you find support? What are, where do you identify that support? Is it a spirituality? Is it a church? Is it a certain organization? This is a great organization to help you get connected to others. If you are not in a community with a lot of NF people, you may not feel that connection and wanting that help. But you can get support in other ways, even if it's not necessarily NF specific. So talking about the study, there are about half of the NF1 caregivers report burden, and we've talked about all the ways that burden can kind of manifest itself, and kind of coming up with a family plan on how each member can kind of fill their own cups. And sometimes if you're the primary caregiver, it can be a little bit exhausting because you feel like the puppet master, right? And you have to make sure that, all the appointments are written down. And that's, my husband is also ADHD, so sometimes I feel like I'm the brain for 4 people, and it can be quite exhausting. And so I'm like trying to come up with tools and techniques to teach the entire family to kind of compensate for their difference in how they remember things. So apps are great. There's a lot of e-health technology that works really well, but some people may not, that doesn't work for them. A good old-fashioned planner or family calendar works really well, and keeping medical appointments straight. And I know my patients, and we're gonna get to a slide, all the people that really come into play, it is very common to miss medical appointments, MRI appointments, that type of thing, because there's just so much going on. And so coming up with different ways to kind of help keep everybody on track and work with them and identify for them what works best for their own unique thought processes, and their individuality. And then just kind of really give space, right, for the big emotions that come up, for your own emotions. And it's important to kind of tell yourself at the end of each day, I did my best. I might not have felt like my best in every single moment, but in that moment, I was doing my best. And you're gonna kind of let it go, right? And that's so much easier said than done. Believe me, as a mom, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I worry, right? I know most parents do. If you are up at 3 in the morning and you're worrying about something, it's a good time to write it down so that you can think about it the next day. Maybe it's a question of, I need to ask my nurse care manager about this symptom, or I need to talk to the doctor about this medication, or what about this side effect? And then you get up in the morning and you forget about it. So if you have a little notebook next to your bed, you can write it down and remember, or your phone, right? There's notes in your phone. Although I recommend putting your phone night-night, because it's not always great to have that bedside, but I understand. And so little things like that can kind of help keep you standing upright as the domino. So we talked about not only just taking care of yourself and those around you, and wellness looks different for everybody. And so that's why I can't be up here saying, all right, this is what you do, because wellness is not a one-size-fits-all. What I hope you take from this session is really thinking about how important it is that you fill your cup, and what does filling your cup look like for you, right? So for some people, it's physical activity. They like to run, they like to bike, they like to do different things. That might be more difficult if you have a child at home that can't be left alone. But if you have the means, could you find a way to exercise in your house? And one of the things that has happened in the past few years, on top of COVID, making us stay in our houses more, is the whole range of home workout equipment, right? You've got Peloton, you've got Mirror, you've got YouTube, free YouTube classes. So there's all different types of ways to keep your body healthy if that's what works for you. Maybe it's doing puzzles, maybe it's doing painting. Is it something that you maybe have to tweak because you can't necessarily go far away? Maybe it's girls' weekends or boys' weekends or trips and that type of thing. So this is the time that I want you to really think about what would fill your cup, and then fill your cup. Sometimes as parents, we think, oh my God, we just have to give everything to our children because that's how we show our love, right? That's how we show our love, is just give every single thing. And that's not always it, right? Because then you fall over and then everybody else falls over. So it's not selfish. It's not bad parenting. It's not being a bad child. It's about making sure that you are taking care of you. And when you feel guilty, because I am one of those that, like, the minute I kind of do something for myself, I feel guilty. I've worked really hard with that self-talk. No, this is important for you. This is going to keep you full, right? And so sometimes it takes that constant inner monologue to remind yourself that this is okay and this is good. And then don't be afraid to ask for help and or accept help. And one of the things that I tell my family is when I deal with my patients they just get diagnosed with a cancer and everybody comes at them and they're like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And it's overwhelming because you may not know what you need to help. But in this circumstance where this is going to be a lifelong situation, at 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe you could stop and say, all right, what would be something useful that I could assign to somebody when they say, what can I do to help? Can they, go run an errand for you? Can they sit with your child so that you can have some time away? Can they go with you somewhere? Yeah, I would love to go to see this play. Will you go with me? Or I'd love to go to this concert. Will you go with me? Those are all ways that people are wanting to help you. It makes them feel good to help you, and it also fills your cup, right? So I really want you to take this opportunity to think about all of those things and how it can benefit you and your family. So this was there's a big support system for patients that have NF. But with that big support system, it's a lot of appointments, it's a lot of activity, it's a lot of thought, and sometimes it's not easy to make the appointments, sometimes it's not easy to keep the appointments. Sometimes we don't have access to all of these specialty providers. So in our clinic, I partner with a physician, and then we also have social workers, we have psychologists, we have an AYA specialist, we have a school specialist, we have a lot of resources. So when patients come see us in our clinic, we try to get as many of those in as possible. But if you live in a center or you live in an area where you don't have a big center like that, you may not have access to that. However, more now than ever, there are opportunities for Zoom or telehealth, so to speak. So you can get a telehealth appointment with some of these specialists, even therapy. So say, for example, you yourself would like some interpersonal therapy. There are lots of services that are available that if you Google, and they will match up with your insurance, and you can get therapy in your own home. You don't have to drive, you don't necessarily have to leave. Maybe somebody else could watch your family member for a while you take an hour by yourself in the bedroom. So there's lots of ways that you can do it. You just have to be creative and you have to think about it. But all these individuals on your treatment team want to help you. We want to partner with you. And we are your best advocates and partners as well, on top of you being the primary one. So all these individuals can help work with your family if they are available to you. And if they aren't available to you, talk with your team and see what can be done if you feel like they'd be of benefit. And then lastly, we're going to talk about advocacy. Now, like I said, I just sat in on the advocacy panel. They did a wonderful job. But advocating for your loved one in school can also sometimes feel like a full-time job. So when you think about NF in general, we know patients that have NF are at higher risk for having learning difficulties, ADHD, autism. They may have issues with anxiety and depression. We know all of those things are higher in individuals that have NF1 than individuals who do not. And so there's already going to be a school need. And I encourage families to advocate getting educational support in school early, before they need it, before the kids are, being told that they're falling behind in some particular subject. So that may be neuropsychology testing. It may be just getting some assistance in school with an IEP or a 504 plan. But it's up to you to determine how much you share with your school. It is your individual's own personal health information. So if you don't want to go into great detail about what kind of assistance they necessarily need or why, then you don't necessarily have to, but you have to give enough information so that they will give you the help. But you don't have to explain, the genetic condition per se. And then you want to, as you share with your school what's going on, the assistance they might need, you need to be specific. Is it extra time on tests? Is it tutoring? Is it shortened time on homework? All of those things can be assisted when you have neuropsychology testing at the outright. So I always advocate for, as early as possible, get that neuropsych testing and getting it frequently so that as the kid gets older, they have that assistance and it kind of grows as they grow. You can let others know that the condition is not contagious if they are concerned or if there's a visible plexiform or something like that. They may have questions. And then if you are willing or if your clinic has availability, having a school person come in to educate makes a big difference. Once children know around their age level, right, so explaining developmentally what's going on, they tend to then not be afraid. There tends to be less issues, and sometimes they may even work to help the individual affected with NF1. So advocacy is key, and our advocacy group, the panel they had, just keep at it. And if you need help, talk to your healthcare team to think about ways to go about it. If you hit roadblocks, and you're going to hit roadblocks, and so multiple minds work better together. And I know your treatment team wants to help you as much as possible. So just make sure you're being vocal about what you need the help with. And so now I'm going to bring it back up to Mike for going over the support and resources available to you. Thank you so much for your attention, everybody. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Kasey. That was great. All right, so we're going to go over some of the support and resources that we believe could help you and your family on this journey. Being a caregiver is unique from being a parent. The Family Caregiver Alliance, the National Alliance for Caregiving, and Global Genes can be extremely helpful for you as you and your family take on more caregiving responsibilities. So you might be asking yourself, what can I do next? So first of all, have an open and honest dialogue with your care team. Ensuring that you and your family are surrounded by medical and mental health specialists is a key to short-term and long-term health. Advocate to your loved one's doctor for referrals for behavioral and mental health specialists. Treatment for NF1-PN and other rare diseases extends beyond targeting the rare disease itself. Managing the impact of rare diseases on all aspects of your and your family's life is essential. Taking care of your loved one with NF1-PN is equal parts taking care of yourself and taking care of your loved one. You may be most effective as a caregiver when your needs are taken care of. Keep that cup full as much as you can. Lastly, PEMs, or patient education managers, and as I said, there are 4 of us. I'm in the Northeast, so I live in Northeast Ohio, and I have everything in the Northeast. So we are always available for questions, concerns, and to provide resources such as advocacy and support groups. So I just want to point out, I'm in the Northeast, Samantha is in the Southeast, Liz is in the South, and Katie, our new PEM, is in the West, the wild, wild West, right? So we are here to guide and answer questions at every step of the journey. I am not a medical professional. So please reach out to your doctor, the doctor of your loved one, with any medical concerns or questions that you might have. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we are not going to take questions right now. If you have some questions written down, or you've had something that has occurred to you during this presentation, and I'm sure it has, right? You've listened to a lot of things here today. So if you have any questions, please stop in the back at our exhibit booth. And if we can answer your questions, great. And we'll try to help you get those answers as much as possible. And there should be one more slide here. Okay, well, it's not there. So thank you for attending. Oh, there it is. We will continue to support you and your family. So please reach out to your PEM. I would like to especially take time to thank Kasey, our presenter today, for spending some time and for making the trip here. And remember, the support doesn't stop here. Other PEMs and I are always here to answer your questions. And if you haven't already, please scan the QR code to use the PEM finder and search for your local PEM. So all you do is you bring up the PEM finder, you put in your local zip code, and it'll take you to the PEM who works in your area. You can attend additional PEM-led educational sessions to remain informed about NF1 and PN. Your PEM can also provide you with an NF1-PN parent pack with more information on how you can be an advocate on your loved one's care journey. And also, by the way, if you've stopped by our booth, we do have some of those kits in the booth, although at this point they might be gone by now, just to warn you. But if they are gone, we can certainly get you one later, okay? So if you're interested in that, please ask us. Finally, we recommend visiting nf1andpninfo.com for more information about NF1 and PN. I want to thank you all again for investing some time and energy in yourself, for taking time to learn more about different ways that you can help yourself be a better caregiver and how you can continue to help your family. We thank you for being here, and we hope you have a great rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this on? Hello? Okay. Thank you, Kasey and Mike. That was wonderful, and what a great first day. I just have a few housekeeping reminders for everybody. We are taking a group photo of everyone attending the NF Summit right in the foyer outside this room, so please hover in that area and gather for the photo. A reminder that your name badge is 100% absolutely needed if you're attending the Alamo reception tonight, so please make sure you have that with you. And we start at 9 a.m. in this room tomorrow morning, and don't be late because we have another keynote for you. Amit Ghosh will be here, and he will be sharing his story. So see you all then. Bye.